What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two Knicks Chicks. I'm your host, Lady and the Chef, and I'm joined by my co-host this evening.
Develox 21. What's good?
Well, I know you're a little under the weather, Diva Lock, so we'll try to keep this episode short, sweet, and to the point. But exciting start to the Knicks road trip. Was able to take down the Phoenix Suns on the road, which was a nice win for the Knicks, considering this is how I want to see the Knicks start off their games. The Knicks started off with a bang, as Mike Breen says, beating Phoenix 122 to 138. They're now sitting at third in the East. Knicks offense was red hot. Um, I did read that the Knicks have scored at least 130 points in consecutive games for the first time in 36 years, which is crazy, a crazy stat to read. But shout out to the Knicks. But yeah, I like I said, this Knicks team played with a sense of urgency, with aggressiveness. The Knicks seemed like they had a lot of energy. They were fired up. Offensively, the Knicks they had moments defensively where the Knicks were good, but it just wasn't enough. They did make 58.1% of their attempts from the floor, and then they drained 19 of 39 from the 3-point line. Jalen led the Knicks with 36 points. He was 12 for 21 shooting from the field. Carl Anthony added 34 points, 10 rebounds. Mikel contributed, scored 16 points. He was 7 of 14 from shooting, had 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Campaign was a nice addition off the bench, had 12 points, addition 3 assists, came down with 1 rebound and 1 steal as well. OG, I thought had a really nice game. OG just knows how to move without the ball. He does that really well. Active hands, active feet. Finished with 14.7 rebounds. Josh Hart, as Tibbs calls him, the Swiss Army knife, finished with 19 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. I did see a video of Josh Hart in a post game. He almost looked like Show Enough from with the way his hair was. I don't know if you see that video of the way his hair was, but
From the Last Dragon showed up.
yeah, he
Yeah,
looked just like Show Enough. I gotta send you that video. But he was basically saying he's not gonna allow anyone to dictate when he's gonna shoot the ball, how he's gonna shoot the ball. He's gonna continue shooting. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. There's a huge amount of confidence that Josh is showing this season in his shot. And just even him driving to the basket and he's just doing Josh Hart things. We'll talk about the defense later, but when you were watching yesterday's game, there was a feel that the Knicks were off to a red hot start. They were aggressive in the passing lanes. The Knicks couldn't miss. What were your thoughts on that game?
to me, like that was. I don't know which game I enjoy watching. I guess maybe this one because it was a home game. I mean, away game, and it was like, although Phoenix didn't have their big three, but it was just like, and I guess it's the start of the the away games, and I guess they set the tone. So just watching them, I mean, they were just like so loose and just like in their element. Like, okay, we gonna dictate this game, and that's what they did from the jump, like from the tip. Like they never trailed, they didn't get frazzled or they it was like almost like they just scratched a W on the calendar for the most part. And
Right.
even I think even if KD was there, I think I don't think the Knicks would have still won because just the style that they were playing. Like they didn't let Phoenix come in and dictate. They got us close, I think like 11. Tibbs was able to call a timeout. So just overall, just the ball movement, in and of itself. Jalen was hot in the beginning, and he knew he was. Um, and so, like I said, when you got to feed the hot hand, and just the involvement of everybody, everybody like had like, okay, it's your turn to hit a three. So that confidence and especially like with Josh, because we all know, in the preseason, I mean, when he's mentioned he was lost, I'm like, uh-oh. I mean, I was concerned, you know, as a fan, like I'm like, dude, this is not the time for you to lose yourself or get, or question, your ability on this team. So for him to, like, and make that statement, and just overall the game and how it was played, I just, wish that, we could have had some, scene. I wish Douche would have been available, um, and Sims. And unfortunately, I got to give Sims his props. And this is my first time, and I hope, and I know it won't be my last. And I harp on Sims, but like, I I think he's finding his way. I don't know, maybe he heard the chatter, but just his aggressiveness, and like, he wants to be more involved. So I'm happy to see that with him, and just overall, just like, this was a great, like, win, and this will set the tone, for the road. But you can't take nobody lightly. You still got to treat each game, always say, like it's your last, like it's the game seven of a playoffs. And I think this was like the start of something like new, because this is a 5 game road trip that they're on, and hopefully, let's this is just one down, and 4 more to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the hot shooting was infectious and it trickled down to pretty much everyone on the team. I don't know if Sims, I thought Sims was in the right place at the right time. He ran the floor well. I thought he gave us second chance opportunities. And these are the things that we've been looking for from Jericho, right? I'd wonder though if Jericho was able to play well because is he finding his rhythm and his footing, or was that because Phoenix is such a poor defensive team? They didn't have KD, because honestly, this is just kind of like a sidebar to that. And this is, I guess, I should really save this for when we get on the defense. But like, I thought watching that game, Devin Booker, we didn't have an answer. And I know to some people they may look at it and go, yeah, well, he was really their only answer and making things happen. True. But he was going to his left every time, and there was no one cutting off the left side for him to keep going to. And the same could be said about Jalen, how there was no answer for him as well. I understand that. But going back to Jericho, I wonder, and I think that's the question that I'm posing to you, is that is Jericho, do you feel like he's finding his footing? Because we get a lot of people in the chat who'll say, Jericho sets good screens, and we agree with that. There's no disagreements with that. I think he does that well, but it's like you have to be able to bring more to the table and be more of an asset and bring more value than just setting good screens and the occasional rebounds. So I'm wondering if it's that he's finding his footing with this team and he's figuring out where he needs to be, or and I'm sure he's heard the chatter. I'm sure he sees the articles. Or is it that he had a particularly a good game because of a not so good Phoenix Suns team?
I think it's both of them, but I think it's more the former. Like, I think he is finding his way. Um, because I'm quite sure he gets the coaches, the pep talk about, how they're going with him because of the trust. They see things in him, and he must know that these guys, by him playing over Huck, and I'm quite sure this day is being discussed, like, of why he's getting those minutes. Because I mean, yeah, they're not babies, but at the same time, the coach, I'm quite sure they probably go over, reiterate, well, the trust factors here, this is why we're going with, Sims or XYZ. And I think he's finding his way. He Sims know, like, he's a 4 year guy. I listen, I've been on this team. He could be putting in the extra work, and it looks like he is. But even in the Washington game, he played pretty decent.
Yeah, he
Like,
did.
yes, and and not decent. For Sims, I think he played well. So I think he's finding his foot in. So, like, I don't think it had anything to do with KD, or partially, but I think just overall Sims is finding his way. He's even being, like, more aggressive, and like, and just his style. He's not, you know, falling for. He still falls for that, the little okey doke. But I think he's, learning how to stay on his feet more. But in these last two games, I like what I see from Sims, and I just think that his confidence is definitely growing, and that's what it to me. That's basketball. It's a confidence thing amongst. That's one of the things. Will make you a good player, great player, decent player, and I think his confidence is growing, and he knows that the coach is rocking with him because they believe in him, and
Right.
they see what he's bringing to this team. Yeah, he's not giving us double doubles, but just the his presence, it's added value. We always say, you don't have to score, but you could do the other intangibles, and
Right.
that's what Sims is doing, especially in these last few games. And I just hope that I could, continue to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree. Don't wait. You don't have to wait until it's too late. You don't have to wait until Precious and Mitch comes back. Prove that you deserve minutes. Prove that you belong on this team. Prove that I've been putting in the work. I've been here 4 years. It's time for me to step up. It's time for me to step up. Like, wake up, wake the F up, and seriously, get it together. You gotta like bring a little bit more than what you've been doing the last 3 years. But yeah, I agree with you. I hope that we see more of this consistency from Jericho. I hope he starts to the confidence starts to build and he sees that you can be a monster in the paint and you could prove that you're not a pushover, that you're just not a standing body on this team. So I got to give it to him. I'll speak for me. I've been very harsh on Jericho, but for very good reasoning. So I like what I'm seeing. Now, we pretty much discussed how the Knicks offense was red hot. Josh Hart, he's having a shooting career best this season, shooting at 59.6%. Carl Anthony is first in points per game, first in rebounds per game, and first in 3-point made amongst Eastern Conference centers. I don't think we need to um, I don't think we need to keep continuing and having a conversation or people should be making comments on social media platforms and people's posts on X and whatever about whether or not Carl Anthony belongs in this Knicks team. He absolutely belongs in this team. I've said that a bunch of times and I know I have. But I think that some people also forget that he was signed to this team so last minute. He didn't have an opportunity to practice with the team during the summer. So he's trying to figure out his way, like they all are. They're all trying to figure out how to gel and build the chemistry up together, right? But I mean, those stats alone speaks volumes. The Knicks starting five by far are the best offensive starting unit in the league. They're averaging 96 points per 100 possessions. That's 10 points better than Denver, who ranks second in the NBA. Now, and I'll finish with the offense. Jalen had 36. He was 12 for 21 shooting from the field. Carl Anthony had 34, 10, and 10 rebounds. Mikel had 16. He was 7 of 14 shooting, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Campaign, like I said, came off the bench, gave us a nice spark considering we don't have Deuce McBride. 12 points, 3 assists, 1 rebound, 1 steal. OG Anunoby with 14 and 7 boards. Josh Hart, 19, 11, and 6 assists. Here's the problem, though. The Knicks defense has to get better. They're ranked in the bottom 10th in defense. What I noticed in that game was that the perimeter was wide open. Nurkic had that ball several times, and the Knicks, I don't know if it's because they felt like, well, we up by 20 plus points, let them shoot it. But I wanted to see a little bit more effort in closeouts beyond the arc. Then what I'm still noticing, and I mentioned this to you before, I keep noticing this with the Knicks. They're getting there. So I'm not going to harp on this too much. When they're playing defense, somehow the Knicks are like they're so busy guarding the paint area and protecting the paint, which is great, but still the math is not mathing to me because you're protecting the paint, but yet I think up until I don't know, maybe the last two games, the Knicks have been getting beat in the paint. But the Knicks play defense in the paint and they're protecting the paint rather that I don't know if it's because you don't have Mitchell Robinson there. I don't know. Maybe you could answer this for me. That the perimeter is wide open. Teams are able to swing the ball around, or a player is driving and kicking, and then guys get the ball. A wing gets the ball, and they're able to shoot the three. That's one. The other thing that I notice is that the point I have the ball, and then the high screen is set, and then you'll have. I'm just using as example if Josh Hart is trying to fight the screen, or not even necessarily just the high screen. Maybe they made a pass, someone set a screen. There seems to be a collapse in picking up the other player's man. So it's a delay. And I noticed that a few times in Phoenix on the defensive end where there's this delay and that the Knicks, they're like, they're trying to run to get to the shortest point of the 3-point line. They're trying to run to the top of the key when they make the effort to do it. And I think that's, and again, I said I'm going to be a big advocate for defense this season, and that the Knicks, they have to get better on the defensive end because then they'll be even a stronger, a better team than what they are now. And they're going to continue to get better. But I think that, like, I keep saying this, like, I'm not worried about this team offensively and what this Knicks team could do offensively. Like, we have solid scorers, solid guys who can score. But when you look at the Knicks defensively, I think the road trip is going to continue to be a nice test to see where this team continues to elevate and grow to. Because, you don't know if it's because we played Brooklyn, we played Washington and Phoenix, who's not as good of a team. Because, and I keep saying it, when you play your Clevelands, when you play, yeah, and you beat Milwaukee, but these are teams that are struggling. Phoenix, they're struggling. I mean, not Phoenix struggling, Philly struggling. But when you play like Cleveland and Boston, who space the floor out very well, the Knicks have to figure out how do you defend teams like that. And I want to see them start with the teams that, yes, they should be beating. That, yes, um, you know, you should be able to defend those teams, and that's the opportunity to use to utilize against those teams that are not that good, even the ones that are good, but especially against the teams that are not that good, to utilize those games to figure out the defensive chemistry that I feel like is missing. I don't know what's your thoughts on the defensive effort, and I'm gonna go specifically with Phoenix because that's the last game that they played. I just thought that it wasn't horrible. I love the active hands campaign, OG, but it's still too many like open players. There's still a couple of plays where it's the lack of effort to even try to run out and put a hand out to look like you trying to, guard whoever's trying to shoot the three.
Yeah, you know, I think I see what the Knicks, what they're doing. It's like they're checking boxes, like, because I don't know if it's because this is a new team. You know, the offense is there, check. So now I think, yeah, I'm just speculating as a fan. The defense is gonna come, and definitely when Precious gets back and Mitch, and then you realize, and you also realize you're missing Deuce,
Mhm.
so that adds depth, and that now that forces them. I don't even want to say forces, but that brings the defense on because these guys, they can guard certain positions. Because you got to, we're asking a lot from OG and McHale, and we know Cat, he's not, the defense is not his forte. I mean, Brunson, for the most part, it's on and off. He does sacrifice his body, so we do see, him, making that, being a sacrificial lamb, but you're going to do but so much. So
Yeah.
I think once, like, quote unquote, the reinforcement come, now the defense will follow. I think, they're gelling, like, check the chemistry's coming along, check, what I'm saying, it's a cohesiveness. So it's like boxes are being checked off, and I think once these guys get, back healthy and on the floor, and can, be that, defensive presence, that'll come, because now you OG can rest, and Mitch is back, he'll play the center cat, so
Yeah.
things like that, it will form like the defense. And I think it's just a matter of time. Unfortunately with the Knicks, it's like you gotta, do one, check off one box. Some teams, they have that already, both the offense and defense, but the Knicks, unfortunately, they don't have that liberty, or or I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they don't have that luxury where, they, yeah, we, well, other teams, well, you got to deal with the Knicks, and this is the cards that they're dealt with,
Hmm.
because the, the depth is so depleted. And I think once these guys get back, that will, you know bring their defensive, for whatever rating or ranking, and they will, because that was their part of their identity last season, was their defense. And I think that'll definitely come along, once these guys get healthy. That's how I see it.
So what I'm wondering is, okay, you get Deuce McBride back, who, as far as the injury report goes, Deuce is out with knee inflammation. I thought it was sickness because Divalox told me that. So I don't know where you got that from, unless he started off sick. But Deuce is out with knee inflammation. But the good news is that he's traveling with the team. According to Tibbs, he believes that Deuce will be back during the road trip. Deuce is averaging this season so far 9 points per game, 44% from the field goal. He's 37.9% from the 3 point line while playing 26 minutes, 26, so a little bit over 26 minutes. And then Mitchell Robinson, he's accompanied the Knicks on the road as well. He started shooting on his surgically repaired ankle, but hasn't been cleared to practice or run just yet. And then you got Precious Achua, who's expected to be cleared for practice during the Knicks 5 game road trip. So hopefully we can get him back. I thought Precious would have been back for Phoenix yesterday's game, but I guess he wasn't cleared. But we've seen him on the bench for the last couple of games. But I think what I'm thinking about, I'm wondering rather, is okay, you get Deuce back, you get Precious back, you get Mitch back, and then you have Cam and you have um, Sims. That's your bench plus your starter. So that's 10. How does Tibbs figure out that rotation? Because
Um,
he's going to probably have it to 8.
yeah,
I don't.
but I definitely see Mitch and Precious in there. Deuce, I can definitely see. Unfortunately, the rookies are definitely, unfortunately, they won't see much playing time. They're gonna definitely be very deep in the bench. So you got your starters, and then I definitely see. I, I could even see him probably even going Cam. Even switch between Deuce and Cam. So he may, widen it to maybe 9, or possibly 10, because
That
you
was
just
that's the 5. That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking, you have Deuce, you have Cam, you have Precious, you have Mitch, and you have Jericho. How does Tibbs incorporate them? Because that's your bench, that's your depth, your added depth.
yeah.
How does that work out? Because right now, playing guys 40 plus minutes is not sustainable. So, how does he give those guys? And we know what Mitch is going to be on limited minutes, but how does Tibbs incorporate playing those guys so this way the minutes are a little bit more balanced and they're playing a little bit less minutes, the starters?
I mean, I for the we know Brunson, he's gonna definitely see about 30, 32 minutes, and the rest probably be dispersed between 48 minutes Deuce, and Cam, and so maybe some games Cam probably won't even play, but he's or what Tibbs call that situational. You yourself, you read a piece about the what he loves, what he likes about Sims, and why he's playing Sims over Huck. Um, I think Sims would probably be like definitely that last man in or coming off the bench. I definitely think between Sims and Cams, it's going to be like a situational type of thing. Steph definitely going to probably run with that 8 and just use those guys, on a, I guess, as needed basis. So where he'll find minutes, that's a good question. But like you said, he loves the work that Sims is putting in on that floor. So who knows with Tibbs?
I'm only, I think my biggest thing is that I'm wondering as far as you get the depth back of guys, you got your campaign, you got your Deuce McBride, you have your Precious Achua, you have Mitchell Robinson, and then you have Jericho Sims. I'm not really necessarily worried about the rookies because I know the rookies are not going to get that much playing time. And it may be situational. If the Knicks are blowing out a team and there's 4 or 5 minutes left, yeah, Tibbs may play them. I'm just saying that at the rate that we're going now, and I completely understand that this is very early in the season, but what I'm saying is that with the minutes that are being dispersed right now, will they ease up once you get back your Precious Achua, your Deuce McBride, your Mitchell Robb? You have campaign that can play those minutes. That's what I'm wondering because I think I'm a little triggered from last year and that I wasn't one of those people that was beating down the whole Tibbs is playing players too many minutes. No, but I'm looking at it from a long term sustainability aspect before you get to the postseason, and that is playing Josh Hart and Cat 40 plus minutes every night sustainable, and is that smart? And I'm saying this because the Knicks in the second round, the Knicks lost gas. Yes, we had a man down situation and we weren't healthy. Absolutely. But, you have some other teams already now in the league this season that are able to play guys no more than 29, 30 minutes. I'm not saying that I expect guys to play 15, 20 minutes. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is every night you got to play him about 42, 46 minutes, like, cause especially Josh Hart. He's never going to take him out. And I get it because of his ability and what he can bring to this team. But is that smart? You finish All-Star break and you're still playing all of these minutes. And I get it. We don't want any cupcakes here. It's not about being Mr. Softy. It's about, coming in, grinding. You're getting paid. It's a professional sport. But I think especially, and it's not just Tibbs, most coaches do not play a very uh, large rotation. And again, I said this before. I said it a couple of minutes ago. I know that Mitchell Robinson is going to be on, and I think Mitchell Robinson needs to be on limited minutes because we don't need Mitchell Robinson tweaking anything. But I think the thing that I keep wondering as I'm watching this team build their chemistry, they're going to get better defensively. They are. This Knicks team is going to be. But I'm like, okay, but if guys are playing, a lot of the starters are playing these heavies, you may get 2, 3 games in a row that may not necessarily be back to back. You may have some that are back to back, but they're playing 42 minutes, 45 minutes, 46 minutes. Okay, now we're about to hit the 82 games mark. Round one comes, okay, cool. You do your thing in round one. And if the Eastern Conference stays the way it is, the Knicks are definitely going to be sitting at least third. But okay, you make it to the first round, we get the first round. We know the Knicks could get past the first round. You get to the second round. Guys can't even catch their breath, gasping for air. Not because they're out of shape, but because it's been such a long season. You don't really have enough backups or anyone who can give you anything in the playoff games. So Tibbs has no choice but to keep Josh Hart in, but to keep Jalen in, but to keep Cat in. And I'm just wondering, like, is that going to hurt us when we get to the postseason? And that guys are just they're not gonna have anything to give. This is what I'm wondering.
Well, no, because even Tibbs made a comment about injuries. He said, these guys, they pretty much they stay in shape. And he says all about conditioning, just taking care of your body. I mean, even like last season, I know somebody even alluded to like how Tibbs, they don't run that hard in practice, and this is why they play, those type of minutes. So it could be that, like he probably don't run them as hard in a practice,
Right.
because he wants them to preserve that energy, for those, extended minutes or long periods of minutes that they, so it could be that. And and I guess like Tiff said, when you take care of your body, your conditioning, that can, sort of help prevent injuries. And I guess that's what he's alluding to, like with why, with the minutes that they're playing. But is it sustainable? I mean, it was for the most part until, to the second round. But um, and they go to bat. They not that, will they complain it? I think they would. They go to bat for Tibbs, so I don't. They don't seem to have a problem with it. But I guess as fans, we see it as a lot, and then no, they're not playing no more than like a Brown or Tatum. It, for us, it just probably seems like it's a lot because we don't have that depth. And I think once that do come back, hopefully we will see like a decrease in minutes. But we just have to just wait and see, um, and see how long God forbid they could hold up. But Tibbs, he alluded to, if long as they're conditioning, taking care of their body, health wise, and you know they could run those minutes. So I don't know with Tibbs, you know he's all about that rotation. These guys getting the job done, and he's not too concerned with that the bench and the depth. He with Tibbs, it's just so hard to like read him. Sometimes I question him. Me.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach SAR 617 said when healthy, we have a nice 9-man rotation in Brunson, Bridges, OG, Hart, Cat, Deuce, Payne, Precious, and Mitch. Yeah, that's who I pretty much see in the lineup that we're counting on to get the job done throughout this season. And I think we all can agree here, whether you're in the chat, shout out to the replay gang as well. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And thank you all for joining us this evening. We started a little earlier today than normal, but I think we can all agree here that we want nothing more than this next team to remain healthy for the entire, not just 82 game season, but also for the playoffs, because everyone is going to be needed to contribute in some way, shape, or form of fashion for this next team. So yeah, I just, and especially OG, I think, you know, OG, I loved when you said like he's one person and we can't expect him to do everything. But I love that he does a little bit of everything. And he's proven like this is why I got paid the big bucks. It's we speak about this a lot with Carl Anthony, but with OG especially, he's so poised, he's calm. I mentioned this on the Queen's Court. I was telling Steph, shout out to Steph, I said, oh, watch when OG plays. And I'm gonna ask her if she noticed that. I said, when he dunks, it's very rare he lands on his feet. He lands on his butt, and I think it's because he's protecting his landing to prevent an injury. Because Lord knows, I'm sure he's like, listen, I'm trying to play the majority of this season. I don't want to hear nothing. And I know you brought up a good point. You said we dodged a bullet by not getting Paul George, which, it sucks when you have injury prone players. And we know we have one on our team with Mitchell Robb. So, but I like what I'm seeing from OG Ananobi. The way he's playing is like just unstoppable. Just in the right places at the right time. He's aggressive. His three ball looks good. I'm loving the confidence and what I'm seeing from Josh Hart. His three shot looks a lot better this season. Just doing Josh Hart things, being that Swiss Army knife, as Tibbs called him. Um, and Jalen Brunson, we were talking about this, the stats. People were saying, oh, he started off to a slow start this season, but his numbers are fairly the same as they were compared to all of last season. And actually, they're a little higher. They at like 47%. So, yeah, he may have had one or two, maybe three games where he was a little bit slow. But I think he's also in this phase of like, you never stop learning as an athlete. So he's still figuring out, because if you notice in the third quarter of the Phoenix game, I thought it was a little bit too many threes from him and Cat that we didn't need. It was literally dribble, 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 come up the court, one pass, and we was chucking up a three. You don't need that. I don't care if you're up by 40. You don't need that. Simple basketball. You should still be, you're winning, but practice as you're winning. Work on things as you're winning that game. You know what I mean? This is not a street ball pickup game, and you just come on now. Let's keep it professional too at the same time. You should be having fun, but come on. So I thought the third quarter the Knicks were a little too lax, took their foot off a little bit. They still was able to maintain as Phoenix got within 11 because they were just chucking up threes, and there was no defense on the perimeter. But I think Jalen is learning how to find that balance of being a facilitator, going full-fledged force as being a scorer, doing point guard things, but he's finding that balance of getting those assists under his belt, working on that high pick and roll, which that was another stat that I saw that him and Cat, they're first in that pick and roll duo, that center point guard. So I think what I'm trying to get at is that when you look, it's hard for us to see. I'm gonna speak for me. It's hard sometimes for me to see when I'm watching a game and I go, and it's not me being overcritical and analytical of the Knicks and the game, but sometimes I watch the game and I'm like, I don't know. My eyes, maybe they're, I don't know. But on paper, the Knicks show a different story. The stats show something very positive. Between Jericho Sims, between Brunson, between overall as a team, Josh Hart, on paper, they show a different stats, positive stats. So I think that we just need to give this team grace. We need to give them grace so they can figure out how to come together and gel and become better, not just offensively, but damn defensively as well. And then we got to give guys like Mikal Bridges time to figure out how to become even better because he has it in him. He has it in him. So, and even Cat, I think that third quarter was the only quarter that I was kind of like, Because I also want to say this is how you know the Knicks are not playing defense because you allowed them to score 122 points. You weren't playing defense. That's way too many points. You should have held them under 100. Hell, let them score 95, 98. I would have been happy with that. You let them score at 122. You, and this is what I mean. You gotta tighten up and be a dog. Like you're not getting any more points over us. Make it so hard for them that they're getting shot clock violations that they can't even score. But I like the positive and what I'm seeing so far in this Knicks team. That's a hell of a way to start off a 5-game road trip. I don't want to hear anything about altitude. I don't want to hear anything about being in the Rocky Mountain. I don't want to hear it because every year when we go to Utah, there's something that they use. Bill Pito and all of them when they get on MSG. Oh, I don't want to hear it. Figure it out. You have a rest until Saturday. Figure it out. So you should be able to beat Utah in Utah. Don't wait for them to come to New York. Beat them in Utah. And this is what we were also looking for: consistency in wins. Consistency. This is what we were asking for. Not win one or two, then you lose two, maybe three. Consistent wins. Let's start building the continuity. Let's start gelling. Let's start figuring out our rhythm, figuring out our footing, figuring out where you need to be on the floor, picking up the defense. Talk to each other, please. It's free to talk to each other. I don't think you need a code or anything. Just talk. You're on the same floor at the same time. So I think that this team has to be, again, I'm not sure who's the vocal leader on this Knicks team, but someone has to be like, we have to be not even just more aggressive, but you got to tighten up defensively. The defense has to tighten up. It's a little too weak. And we can't use the excuse of like, well, we don't have this guy or we don't have that guy on the floor. It doesn't matter. It takes five of you to do it on the floor at one time. It takes everyone collectively to figure out how to get those defensive stops. Yeah, you could have individual ones. We saw that in Phoenix. Campaign had active hands. Jalen Brunson got a steal. OG Ananobi. That's individual. Sure, it resulted in a team scoring points, but it's too much open space on the floor when you play against the New York Knickerbockers. 3-point line is wide open. It's open season. So, we'll see what this Knicks does. They're still growing. They're going to get better. They have to figure out how to become a better defensive team, as I've just alluded to. Um, but overall, I like what I'm seeing from this Knicks team. They don't play again till Saturday. Again, the Knicks are still on the road. They play Utah at 5. It's a matinee game. And then they play again on Monday against Denver. Again, they're still on the road. That's a 9 o'clock game. With these upcoming away games, give me your keys for the Knicks to stay consistent and win and be able to beat those teams. And anything that you're looking for, whether it's individually from a player or overall as a team.
Nah, I always go team because it takes a team to win that game. Individual stats just don't cut it for me because like you could score 60, but if it results in a L, then guess what? Those stats
Right.
go out the window. So I pretty much again they got to set the tone. Don't take no team lightly, and especially Utah. Is this season wash? No, but if they could get a game that that can boost their confidence, so they pretty much have to go in and again, like set the tone. And like Josh said, he's not going to let no team or individual play dictate how he shoots and plays. That's got to be their mantra. Like we're going to play our style, and the team going to have to adapt to us. Our opponent's going to have to adapt to us. So if they play their style, like how they play in Phoenix, they I can you could definitely like okay, this is a W. You could count those wins, but you can't again take anybody too lightly. But my keys is again the defense is coming along, so I don't want to even harp on the defense because that's missing right now. But I have faith that that will come along. But just offensively, like just run your offense. You know, um, you know, like I said, Towns and Brunson, they're like top tier. They just have to just continue to just get better at that, and they will as the more they play. And just they well-rounded game. Like again, take that Phoenix game and let that be the catalyst, and that should have set the tone for them. And yeah, the Jazz, I expect that to be a win, but again, I don't want to take any team lightly. So individual, I can't really hone on anything because it takes a team to win. But I just want them to definitely just run their offense, guard that perimeter if you can. And I think that's not a hard task. I mean, it's as easy, I guess, for me to say. But yeah, just like mirror what you did in that Phoenix game, and that Saturday's game will definitely be yours for the taking. I mean, even Denver, Cat, he's pretty much he if Jokic play, because I know he's out on, like, I think a personal, so I don't know the status, but come Monday, but pretty much Cat can hold his own. Maybe Precious will be available for one of those games, which will give some relief, or possibly they play together. But yeah, I think they just played the great game on yesterday, and if they could just bottle that up, they could definitely this could be a definitely a sweep for me.
Yeah, and how sweet would it be for the Knicks to do just that? Um, Salute to hit him up. New York, New Jersey said it's clearly Cat a better fit with Brunson than Julius. Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. That Cat is definitely a better fit with Brunson than Julius. But I don't even look at it necessarily. I think it's two sides to that. Yes, I think you got to look at it from the standpoint of like Cat is a better fit with Brunson than Randall. But I also think that we got to look at it from the standpoint that Brunson hasn't had a true like five he's been able to play with since he's become a Nick. Because yes, Mitchell Rob is, but it's not the same level. So now Brunson has a little something to work with. He got a little bit more than a little something to work with. He got a lot to work with. And now that he has, and I think it's a different style when it goes back to when we just brought up Randall, there's a different style of player with Carl Anthony that he has who can, you know, they don't play the same style, him and Randall. So, I think that's why going back to when I said we have to give this team grace is that, the Knicks got rid of traded Randall, traded Devo's who's been struggling mightily. And it's just crazy how that happens to a player. And, one could only wonder if he was still here on the Knicks, would that still be the case or not? We don't know. But I'm confident and I like the addition of Mikal Bridges on this team because I think we have to look in the long run. Again, I keep thinking of when we hit the playoffs. Sometimes with some players, we've had these instances where some players have quiet up. And I'm not even just talking about Randall. I'm just saying what some players have been missing in action. And we're like, yo, you only gave us one good game out of that series? Come on. Come on. So Carl Anthony is for sure a better fit on this New York Knicks team. And they're him and Brunson are only gonna get better. Like I said, they're ranked first in that center point guard duo. And they're only gonna that game part of their game is only gonna get stronger for this Knicks team. Cody said defense is going to get better. It is. And I think also it has to because if Tibbs is such a defensive minded coach, he's known as his defense, it needs to show. Because on paper, that doesn't show. There's a lot of positives on paper from this Knicks team, statistical wise. Defense is not. So I'm definitely looking for them to get better. So we'll see. Exactly. Coach Sarr said it. He said, yes, Cat is better than Randall in everything related to basketball by the numbers. Yeah. And I just think that like the flow with Cat on the floor it's smoother than with Randall. And it's no knocking against Randall. I think Randall's a really good player. But there's a different flow to the game when we had him on the floor versus when you have Cat, who can also give you those great passes like Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein was out there throwing Harlem Globetrotter passes the other night. I guess showing the Knicks and people, this is why I came to get my money. Because I'm throwing, I mean, The two passes he passed, his teammates missed the baskets. That's annoying. But you know, I think that that was one of my concerns was the lack of passing and the ball movement. And the Knicks are proving that they can move the ball very well on the offensive end of the floor. And Carl Anthony's passes, they're right there. They're right up there with iHeart's. Nick Yes Salute says Sims is playing great defense and holding off Huck Porty from getting his chance. But Gleed, I'm not sure what the ending of that is. Yeah, I think we were talking about this at the top of the show. We think that Sims is finding his rhythm. I think Sims is probably getting out of his head. There's still a little bit of pressure on him because if he doesn't do well this year, you're out of there, buddy. And I think that Sims is getting the minutes due to circumstances because Mitchell Robb is still out hurt. But I think that Sims, forget all of that. Even if Mitchell Robinson was healthy, he has to figure out how to contribute to this team. And he's finding his way. And I only hope that the confidence builds and he continues to get better. He can give us those second, third, fourth chance opportunities. He can be a defensive threat in the paint. He can block shots. He can give us easy buckets where Brunson could feel comfortable and other guys could feel comfortable throwing him an alley oop. So we can get an easy, you know what I mean, an easy basket. So that's what I'm looking for from Jericho. But listen, I like what I saw. I agree with Divalox in the Phoenix game and the Washington game, and I want him to keep that up because, listen, he's needed. And he can be an asset here. So I want him to prove that he belongs on his team. Damian Cox salutes that the Knicks are looking good so far, but how long can they keep it up, especially when Mitchell Robinson returns? Well, I think when Mitchell Robinson returns, he's going to be on limited minutes. And you want to ease Mitchell Robinson back into the lineup. But I think the Knicks can keep up what they're doing. I think for sure the Knicks can keep up what they're doing. If not, if anything, the Knicks are going to get better. They're working out the kinks early in the season, and this is the time to work out the kinks while it's still don't work out the kinks in April. Work out the kinks and figure out the chemistry now. Figure out what you need to do, whether you need to rotate your shot differently, you need to figure out how to fight over screens, figure it out now before we get after All-Star break or later, where it's like I think the biggest thing too with the Knicks, they don't want to get themselves in a bind and find themselves trying to crawl or falling too deep into the Eastern Conference standings. Just because teams are starting off slow now doesn't mean that teams can't get red hot and go on a run and pick up pace, but I truly think that the Knicks can keep it up as long as Tibbs eases up some of the minutes from the starters as we continue on. And, the bench, because you'll have your bench back. You're going to have Mitchell Robb. You're going to have Precious Achua, Cameron Payne, Deuce McBride, and Jericho Sims. So, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for guys to prove that they should be in a rotation, especially if you're on the bench. And I think that with those guys, with a healthy bench, providing the depth that the Knicks needed, Tibbs eases up off of some of the minutes from the starters. So I was nervous about the trade at first, but hands down a solid move by the front office. Absolutely. And we have to continue to trust the front office. There was concern that we wasn't going to get a center. The Knicks there was crickets when it came to Randall and them signing him back with this team. Every week we was checking. There was nothing. And I don't know why I didn't put two and two together and be like, well, maybe they're not going to re-sign Randall.
Yeah,
So they didn't.
And it could be possibly Randall knew he wasn't going to sign. And that's why he was the holdout. But he probably knew, sometimes he could have felt slighted, or he probably knew that they want to go in a different direction. Because you hear the chatter, the players even admit, there was some rumbling and whatever, or agent, whatever could have, put a bug in his ear. And so he was a lone holdout, and I guess because anytime when the team don't offer you what you're asking, and that's like a sign right there. And so like the talks wasn't going nowhere, so they just figured, well, let's just move on, you know. So that was probably on both their parts. Why he didn't come, because he knew they wasn't giving him that money. He wasn't willing to take that cut like how Brunson did. Um, it's for the betterment of the team. Sometimes players feel, nah, somebody will pick them up, and so when when they signed Cat, it was a lot of rumbling. It was like, oh, how soft he is, and um, I think that was, and then to all the Knicks got fleeced. I thought that was a great pickup, man, and a smart move on Rose's part, to bring in, somebody of his skill set, what he does and what he can do. So it wasn't like, it was a downgrade. To me, it was an upgrade. And like I said, no slight to Randall, but you know, with with that trade, the Knicks, yeah, there was a few games that they could have won, but overall, like you said, just the stats and what it says on paper,
Right.
they're right on target and right on pace. You know,
Yeah.
both of them. So it was just a great pickup for them.
Yeah, people felt like that too when we got Cameron Payne. There was question as to like why did we bring him, but I think people forget like with his veteran experience, you need players like that on his team. He's still very energetic. He's no bust. He has the awkward looking shot, but he can knock him down at a high percentage. So yeah, we have to continue to trust the front office and what they're doing for this Knicks team, and it's for the betterment in the long run for this team. So continue to trust the pickups and the trades that they do. I think sometimes as fans we hold on to these attachments to players, but it's also a business, and if it's not working out, just like a job, it's just not working out. We're gonna move on, you move on, and that's that. And it's just like the Knicks. I said this the last episode. I thought um there was too much time spent on trying to figure out, I guess, trying to figure out how to sign and give Isaiah Hartenstein the money he wanted. And the Knicks knew they didn't have it at that point in time to give it to him. And, they made up for it. They got Carl Anthony Towns, they got Mikal Bridges, they got Cameron Payne. Okay, cool. They got Landry Shamet, who I'm hoping he can come back and recover because they're going to need him too. So, you know, it caused somewhat of a domino effect, but they were able to recover right before the season started. So that shows the strength of the front office of this New York Knicks team anyway. Nick Yaksek, 30 assists again and scored 60 points in the paint. Offense is humming, defense is the problem. 120 points. Thank goodness we shot 56%. Yeah. And that's what I was saying earlier with this Knicks team. They have to be better. They have to tighten up defensively. The defense is way too weak. The 3-point line is wide open. The paint is wide open. Because most of our games so far, we've been outscored in the paint. But the threes, the switching on the defense has to be better. They got to talk to each other. They have to tighten up the defense. If you're playing for a coach like Tibbs, who's very defensive minded, I put that on coaching staff and I put it on whoever's the vocal leader. And then just together as a team, they have to get better. Damian Cox said, "Hey ladies, do you think it would be a Knicks Celtics Eastern Conference Finals or Cavaliers Celtics Eastern Conference Finals?"
I think it's Knicks, because the Capitals are playing great, but
You don't think that's sustainable in the long run?
no, and because again, once we get our death back, they didn't have no answer for Mitch, and so not that Mitch is this cape, this guy
Right.
walking around on the court with a cape, but just overall, they don't have an answer, for the Knicks, um, like offensively. Yeah, that was yeah they won that first game, but you know as the Knicks play more, they're gonna gel, and definitely that cohesion, the cohesiveness will come, just the chemistry, and that identity is gonna be formed by then. Way before we get to that to cross that bridge. So I truly believe it's gonna be. For me, I'm banking on the Knicks and Celtics.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't know how long this Celtics chemistry will last into the postseason. Like, will they deflate and, with a better team, they end up losing? And I remember how the Knicks, we pretty much have their number. So, I don't know. But I do think it'll definitely be Knicks and Celtics for sure. The Knicks are the better team. I do think that Cleveland has figured out the formula like Boston. I think they figured it out. I think also they may have somewhat of more confidence and feel like, Jared Allen, these other guys, Garland, and feel like, yeah, no, we could take Mitch, we can handle Cat. But I don't think that they have enough in the tank as we get deeper into the season, into the playoffs, to be able to take the Knicks. So, and it's, especially what Brunson's gonna do, OG. So yeah, I don't think that we'll have enough to, you know, yeah, exactly. Knicks Cavs for sure. Latoria B salute. So I don't think the Cavs are as good as their record, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think, you know what? I think because the Eastern Conference is not as strong, minus the Celtics, the Knicks who are playing well. But if you look at a lot of the teams who should be in the top five, they're struggling. Philly struggling. Milwaukee struggling. Teams that should be playing a lot better, they're struggling out there. And I think that's why Cleveland's able to. Do I think they figured out some of the Boston formula? Yeah. But I agree with this comment. I don't think they're as good as their record shows. I think that the Eastern Conference is very weak right now, and it's not as strong as the West. And that's why they're able to look like they won a championship last year, right now. So, and Boston put that to rest. So, you know, we'll see. Teams are constantly penetrating, kicking, and swinging for a three. Rinse and repeat. Yeah. There's the drive and kick. There's the swinging the ball. Sometimes the extra pass, the unselfish pass. The Knicks are not closing out on the three. They have to get better with that. Paris Jugger salutes. I can't wait to play Cleveland with Brunson at full tilt. Brunson is a killer. He is. And I think Brunson likes to go against, other guys who pretty much match up with him. And he's going to want to outbeat Spider. Nick Yaksa, what doesn't Cleveland have? A great backcourt and huge front court. Yeah. I know you have the Knicks predicted to win against Utah. What about Denver? Do you have them winning that game on Monday? I mean, we'll be back on Sunday to talk about that, but
Yeah, like I said, I'm banking on them to sweep, and come back 5-0 on this road trip. I mean, Jazz, again, you can't count no team out. but because of their struggles and offensively, the Knicks are in sync. Like this, this game is for theirs. But yeah, I definitely have them, taking this game Saturday. It's an early game, and yeah, we'll revisit
The Monday
yeah.
next week games. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I need the Knicks to beat Utah. Like I said, I don't want to hear when I watch the MSG replay Bill Pito, Wally Zuriak, Monica McNutt talk about the travel, the air in Utah. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because you do well in Phoenix because the weather's nice there. I figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. I don't want to hear it. Beat them. Let's stay hot. Let's stay focused on this road trip. I need the defense to pick up, um, keep the chemistry going. And yeah, I want to see the Knicks finish off this road trip strong. So they can do just that. Anything else for you from you before we get out of here?
Nah, salute to the chat.
Yeah, salute to the chat. Everybody, the chat was definitely on fire this evening. Salute to Eddie C, Nostalgic Nick, King Ribby RM, Coach SAR 617. Who else? Hit him up. New York, New Jersey, Cody, Kareem Grant, Nick Yak. Who else? Latoria B, salute to you. Parish Duggar, always showing love. And Damian Cox, salute to you as well. And those of you who are not live in the chat, salute to you as well for watching us. Shout out to the replay gang for checking us out and watching the channel. And yeah, hope everybody have a great start to their weekend. We'll be all watching the Knicks. Looking for a W on Saturday. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Sunday morning at 11. Check us out. We'll recap the Utah game, and then we'll do a pregame to Monday's game against Denver and the remaining games for next week. And yeah, that's all for us this evening. Everybody have a great one. Stay safe. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. And we'll see you all Sunday. Until next time, everybody, peace.